Harden after this great performance?
You know, I wanted to be aggressive tonight like I've been this entire season. And, you know, I'm just happy we came away with the win. Like, every game isn't going to be perfect. Some nights we're going to shoot the ball great. Some we aren't. But as a team, we got to be able to fight and consistently have our defense on pace. And tonight there were some ups and downs. But like you said, with the absences with those guys, wins are all that matters.
Is it special for you to tie the opponent's record here at Madison Square Garden for scoring?
Yeah, this is one of the historical buildings in a sport that we have. Obviously, the fans are one of the best that we have in this league, and so it's pretty cool to come out here and just put on a show for them.
At this point in the season, what do you need to work on as a team to move up?
We have to get healthy. That's the most important thing. We get healthy and we'll move forward from there. But obviously, Clint is out a little bit longer, but Chris will be back very soon. And as long as we can get healthy and catch a rhythm, everything else will be great.
When you raised your arms after the final dunk, was it over just finally securing the win?
Yeah, for sure. We let the game slip away 3 times. And we've seen that we've been allowing that to happen these last few games. And when we have opportunities to close games out, we have to do it. You know, mental mistakes, we weren't focused, and we give them opportunities, give them hope at the end of the game.
When you were asked yesterday about a Garden moment, will this do?
Yeah.
You guys just, James, you just finished this one. We've got Toronto coming up next.
Big time.
What do you think about that match?
Big time. I mean, every game for us, we're down players, so every game for us is a big time game. Like, we're not going to overlook the Knicks. We're not going to overlook the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, we know there's a difference, but for us, we have to be focused, for every single game and every opponent.
Got a lot of landmarks. What about a career high tonight?
In the Garden, I'll take it.
Does it mean more to
we need to make a run or
Yeah.
go ahead, it seemed like? I mean, did you have to cut short your rest at all tonight?
It's been happening, but, we're limited guys, and so whatever I have to do to try to win games, I'll do it. And Coach knows that.
James, when you score 61, and on a night like this when you can get to the line 25 times, how much pride do you take in the fact that you can win games that way as opposed to just hitting outside shots?
There's multiple games. There's a lot of ways you can win games. You could be hot one game. You could not be hot. Some games you got to rely on your defense. Some games you got to slow it down a little bit more. But the shots that we love to take in our offense, we'll take them every single game. Obviously, all of them don't go in. So you got to find other ways to win games. And when we needed to get stops, we did that.
Can you tell us about Mike D'Antoni's coaching style and what you learned from him?
I mean, honestly, playing for Coach, he gives, not only myself, but just the entire team a lot of freedom. Like, he doesn't really yell. He just lets you go out there and play. All you have to do is go out there and do your job. Play extremely hard and play, within your role. And that's all that matters. I know a lot of coaches have, strict rules and, players aren't allowed to do certain things on the court, but he just lets you go out there and play free. And that's the one thing I love about him. He's a real players coach.
James, I know it's a team game, but that Toronto game, what's it like to go up against Kawhi?
I mean, it's not even just Kawhi. Toronto has a really, really good team. They're probably one of the deepest teams we have in this league, and so obviously Kawhi is a catalyst, but Kyle Lowry, he's healthy. Siakam is playing very, very well. Serge, their entire team, you go down the list, and anybody on their team can get it going. So it's going to be a tough challenge for us.
Did you tune into the crowd at all? Like, they would cheer you on some plays and then boo you when you go to the line. It was kind of, they couldn't figure out.
They can figure out what they wanted to do, but I appreciate them though, honestly. Like tonight they kept me going and made the game exciting for me.
Do you see that everywhere you go? Conflicted fans?
No, you don't. You don't. That's why this place is special. I'm just happy,
Because they appreciate good basketball.
Exactly. And I'm just happy I can give them a 61. Appreciate it, y'all.
Thank you.
James, referencing exactly, we were just talking about what growing up a Knicks fan, you notice it's odd that way because they are so passionate, but even at times, not maybe in the playoffs, when Jordan during all those battles is going on, there is like a respect level that's kind of weird. Like they can't figure out whether or not they love somebody or they hate somebody. But James Harden clearly was doing what he could to utilize that energy. That last play, look, that steal, come on.
Smitty, this is the playground, though.
Yes.
New York, it's at the plate where, like, your game earns that respect, and that's what you have from the crowd in the Garden. So as a Knicks player, you probably hate it when they're cheering for the other team, but it's a playground type of who has it, who doesn't. You know, you're on the biggest stage of basketball. That's what you get in New York. And then a guy like Harden, like he literally said, this was fueling me. It was fueling me. They kept me going. And if you go for 62 and actually play defense on the other side, that's the Garden.
You know, here's the thing, too. We were talking about this, and I think this is important to bring up. Clearly, what James is doing may be another MVP, Smitty. It's unbelievable. We're talking about, well, is he the greatest, this, that, whatever. Have we forgotten that the season started, it was, wait, if Chris Paul wasn't hurt last year, the Rockets maybe beat the Warriors. Okay, they lost some defense. We understand that, not discounting it. Where are they now? Because we're seeing him drag everyone in the back and go. When CP3 and Capella get back, and they get towards the playoffs, what kind of Rockets are we looking at now?
Well, we're looking at a Rockets team right now should be built for the playoffs. And I think the one thing is you go through what they did last year and they lost. And, yes, it's a big loss when you lose Luke Baamute and Trevor Ariza. But I look at it right now is you've been through adversity last year in Game 7. You've been through adversity with no Capella, no Eric Gordon this year, and no Chris Paul. It comes down, James Harden will not be scoring 60 every night in the playoffs. Now can we have somebody step up, make those plays off the basketball when they decide to double James, when they play good defense, when he's out of the lineup? Because there's going to be times he's not going to be able to play 48 minutes. You're going to have some other guys to step up, and that's where Chris Paul will come and play to make those other plays for guys.
I think about Russell Westbrook, think about AI during his day, and there were a lot of others, but great offensive players who at times the comment was, well, they're trying to take too much upon themselves. They have to find a way to divvy it out more. We know what he can do with Capella, what CP3 can do last year. A lot of dribbles, but there were other guys making shots. How does this version of Harden now tone it down when these guys come back, considering the fact they're winning games the way he's playing?
See, the thing that people don't appreciate about James is that he plays winning basketball, and how he's willing to go out and get you 20 assists if you sag off all night long, or if you throw a double team or you play a traditional coverage in the pick and roll. He's throwing that thing up to Capella time and time again. What do I mean by traditional coverage? Playing a drop coverage with your big, and now James is baiting you, and you got to pick your poison. He's either shooting a layup or he's throwing it up to Capella. He'll hit that corner skip time and time again. That's why they're playing winning basketball. You see guys like Gary Clark, James Ennis, Gerald Green knocking down corner threes. Now they are going to get tested even more with Chris Paul out. Obviously, Gordon is back to help. You saw it against the Lakers. The Lakers threw a junk defense out. They said, P.J. Tucker, go get 20. Okay, James Ennis, go get 20 points and see if you guys beat us. And the Lakers were up big. Philadelphia has success with it. And you're going to see teams that actually have the personnel starting to wear James down. And a lot of teams with younger defenders or don't have enough, because you got, Smitty, you know it, you got to have 2 and 3, 3 and 4 defenders to actually guard them. They can't get physical with him. You got a young team like the Knicks, they don't know how to guard him without getting whistled for a foul. But if you're a Philadelphia, as you brought up earlier, we were talking about a Corey Brewer or a guy that's long and rangy you can throw on him. That's going to start to wear down James. But for the regular season, I just don't see it being a problem.
You know, for me, is you always had great players. In my era with Michael Jordan. But the one thing you look at is you see their numbers. And the first thing I did when we weren't playing against Michael is go to the other guys. And that's when you start to see the Scottie Pippen with 22 points, 11 rebounds, 4 steals. It's not to 50. It's not to 40.
Didn't need it.
He didn't need it, but that's where you start to see, wow, this team is built more than just their superstar. And like tonight, Eric Gordon having 20, that's huge. You can get 20 points on a guy who had 38 attempts from the field, 25 attempts on the free throw line, and you can still come up with 20. That's showing you where these other guys are going to be needed to win basketball games and ultimately to win a championship.
That's why it's scary watching the duo of George and Westbrook right now, right? Either one could take over the game and the other one could take over the game at the same time. Nobody taking over our game like Ryan Hollins would.
Shaquille O'Neal was an unstoppable force in the NBA the moment he stepped onto the court. Not only was he named an All-Star as a rookie, but selected as a starter as well. Ro Parrish revisits Shaq's first All-Star appearance back in 1993 in this episode of Storytime with Shaq.
At center is the first rookie to start in an All-Star game since 1985. Standing over 7 feet tall and weighing 300 pounds, he plays well beyond his 20 years. You know him simply as the Shaq from the Orlando Magic, Shaquille O'Neal.
1993, Utah. Your first All-Star game, making it as a rookie. Number one, what were your first impressions when you get there? Did you expect to make the All-Star game as a rookie?
Well, I expected to make the All-Star game, but I wasn't expecting to be started. First of all, before I got there, terrified.com.
Why?
Because, I mean, all the guys that I dreamed up, dreamed of being, guys that I looked up to, I'm finally there with them. There was one moment at the All-Star game that kind of made me relax a little bit. We were doing the team picture, and the guy puts his hand on my shoulders, and I looked down, some big hands. I'm like, who is this? And I looked up, and it was the great Michael Jordan. And he said, I'm proud of you, big fella. You're going to be a great player. So once he said that, the steam just like, but after that, I kind of learned how to be an all-star performer because it's different. And, it's kind of similar to my thought process of putting on the show for the fans. But at an all-star game, you got to do extra. Come down, cross people up, dribble between the legs, better slam dunks, maybe shoot a three. So after that, I became sort of an all-star expert.
So looking back at all those players that you spoke about that you were in awe of, you had that Michael Jordan moment, but talk about Pippen, Isaiah, Malone, Stockton, Barkley, Robinson. Are you able to take all that in at that moment? Do you realize how much greatness you're around when you see all those players out there with you?
It was just solidifying the beginning of my greatness. Because when you come in as a rookie and everybody says you're great, and then I made the top 50 team, a lot of people was upset about that. So in my mind, I had to back it up. So by me getting selected to the All-Star game, that was sort of backing it up. I had to put up big numbers, sort of backing it up. But, I was just saying to myself when I was sitting in the locker room, damn, I made it. Medium-level juvenile delinquent who didn't start his freshman or sophomore year, 35-1, San Antonio Cole High School, lose the state championship on free throw line, redeemed myself senior year, 36-0, 3 years at LSU, #1 pick. Everyone says you're the next greatest thing. Maybe this is the start of me being what everybody says I can be. When you're just sitting there watching, you just automatically put yourself in those scenarios. And I used to do it all the time. And then finally, look up and I see the real Charles Barkley walk by. I see the real John Stockton, the real Karl Malone, the guy who I grew up watching, the Admiral, David Robinson, Pat Riley with his $6,000 suit and his silky tie and the beautiful hair. Like I'm sitting next to all these people. So maybe what everybody is saying that this young kid will be a great player, maybe it's true.
The 2019 All-Star starters will be revealed tomorrow night on TNT at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. You both were part of the esteemed media panel.
I don't know about esteemed.
Calling it esteemed. Media panel that represents 25% of the total ballot when it comes to the starters. So you both had to submit Eastern Conference starting five and a Western Conference starting five. Your Eastern Conference starters are pretty similar. Both include Kyrie Irving, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, and Joel Embiid. They are identical except for this, what I'm going to call the second guard spot. Kemba Walker for Greg. Sekou, you've got Bradley Beal. This being a TV segment, you're now obliged to argue about it.
I mean, listen, I think both those guys are worthy. I just looked at and weighed heavier the work Bradley Beal has done since John Wall went down. A Wizards team, GA, that was out of it, out of people's consciousness. We had kind of written them off. John Wall goes down, Bradley Beal is playing fantastic. I think he should be an all-star either way.
Yeah.
He could be a starter. You could have him be one of the reserves. It doesn't matter. As long as he's on that team, I think you're doing right by him.
Yeah, and I agree. I think both are going to make the team. I went with Kemba. One, he's been great from the start of the season, and two, as of today, they're a playoff team.
Right.
And so to me, I do think, because their stats are actually very similar, but I just think, ultimately you want to reward success too in winning. So that's why for me, I ended up going with Kemba. But I'm like you, Sekou. I think both guys are all-stars with how well they performed this season under adverse conditions for both teams.
I actually put Ben Simmons on my ballot, and I think you could make an argument for three of those guys.
I think he'll be there too.
If you're rewarding winning, Ben Simmons.
Yeah. So the winning argument, that's kind of where I felt.
No question.
In the Western Conference, again, you agree on four of them. Steph Curry, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Paul George. Greg has the Kings. Sekou went with the Brown.
Yeah, I just looked at the fact, again, it goes back to before LeBron went down, they were a 4 seed. With that same team, in essence, that we saw from a season ago, and his numbers had been off the charts again. And in Anthony Davis, as much as I love him, again, he's going to be an all-star. I just thought overall the fact that the team success just hasn't been there. That was the one area where I had an issue. And the interesting thing for me, the guy that probably is more deserving based on team success is Jokic.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Jokic has been incredible this year. So, again, he's definitely going to be on the team.
For sure.
But I think, again, part of this is who do you want to see as well when you talk about the starters. And so I ultimately went with LeBron.
Yeah, and if Anthony Davis was any less of an unbelievable, freak of nature in this league, it would be easier to leave him off somebody else. I just figured when you look at his body of work, independent of the context of the Pelicans' struggles this season, he's always up here on that next level of the handful of guys in the league who can do what he does on a regular basis. Hard to leave him off, but of course, people will say, well, why are you penalizing LeBron for missing games when you didn't penalize Steph Curry for the same thing?
Yeah, why are you doing that?
So there is a part of me that kind of scratches my head and says, do you knock LeBron for being out? Is it a recency bias because he's been out lately? Because nobody's going to have a Western Conference All-Star starting five without LeBron James. It wouldn't make sense. But, of course, I went there.
Except for you.
Except you did. And yet you did it anyway.
I know.
Didn't you?
I figured somebody had to shake it.
There you go.
I'm with you on AD, though. I mean, some guys, the numbers, the talent is just so overwhelming, you almost overlook.
Shout out to Paul George, though, for playing
Oh,
his way onto that list.
Man,
He's been awfully good this year for the Thunder.